Wysteria, energy, twister. Hello everyone, welcome back to Legends of Britany. Faeries of Britany is what we're on. And we're now on the Fisherman and the Faeries. This is another folk tale from time of Britanny. Meant to be very true. We don't know that, but yeah. The Fisherman and the Faeries. A fisherman of Saint Jacques de la Mere, walking home to his cottage, found from his boat one evening along the west sands, found unawares that he was upon a number of fairies in a hole. A hole is a cave, and it was also called a hoyul, but it means a cave. They were talking and laughing gaily, and the fisherman observed them that, while they made merry, they rubbed their bodies with a kind of ointment or pomade. All at once, the old salt surprise, they turned into ordinary women, concealing themselves behind a rock. The fisherman watched them until the now completely transformed immortals quitted their haunt and waddled away in the guise of old market women. The fisherman waited until they were well out of sight, and then entered the cavern, where the first object that met his gaze was a pot of the ointment which had effected the marvellous change he had witnessed. Taking some of the pomade on his forefinger, he smeared it around his left eye. He afterward found that he could penetrate the various disguises assumed by fairies, wherever he met them, and that these were for the most part adopted for the purpose of trickery. Thus, he was able to see a fairy in the assumed shape of a beggar woman, going from door to door demanding alms, seeking an opportunity to steal or work mischief, and all the while casting spells upon those who were charitable enough to assist her. Again, he could distinguish real fish, caught in his net at sea, from merwomen disguised as fish, who were desirous of entangling the nets or otherwise distressing and annoying the fisherman. But nowhere was the disguised fairy race so much in evidence as at the fair of Plough-Belay, where he recognised several of the elusive folk in the semblance of raree showmen, fortune-tellers, and the like, who had taken these shapes in order to deceive. He was quietly smiling at the pranks when some of the fairies who composed a troupe of performers in front of one of the booths regarded him very earnestly. He felt certain that they had penetrated his secret, but ere he could make off, one of them threw a stick at him with such violence that it struck and burst the offending left ear. Fairies in all lands have a constitutional distaste for being recognised, but those of Britanny appear to visit their vengeance upon the members with which they are actually beheld. "See what thieves the fairies are," cried a woman, on beholding one abstract apple from the countrywoman's pocket. The predatory elf at once turned round and tore out the eye that had marked his act. A Cornish woman who chanced to find herself the guardian of an elf child was given certain water with which to wash its face. The liquid had a property of illuminating the infant's face with a supernatural brightness, and the woman ventured to try it upon herself, and in doing so splashed a little in one eye. This gave her the fairy sight. One day in the marketplace she saw a fairyman stealing and gave the alarm, when the enraged sprite cried, "Water for elf, not water for self. You've lost your eye, your child, and yourself." She was immediately stricken blind in the right eye. Her fairy foster child vanished, and she and her husband sank into poverty and want. Another Breton tale recounts how a mortal woman was given a polished stone in the form of an egg, wherewith to rub a fairy child's eyes. She applied it to her own right eye and became possessed on magic sight so far as elves were concerned. Still another case, alluded to in the Revue Celtique, arose through the sacred bond formed between a fairy man and a mortal woman, where both stood as godparents to a child. The association enabled the woman to see magically, The fairy maiden Rockflower bestows a similar gift on her lover in a Breton tale from Saint Cast, and speaks of clearing his eyes like her own. The end. And also, that's another myth that's meant to be absolutely true. There is an ointment that allows us to see the true fae, and it's very much believed that they are actually fairies today that are very human. They look human, they act human. Even if you put the stuff in your eyes, they would still look human. But they have something different about them because they're usually very unusual, don't really associate with many people much. Generally, they're very artistic, they like to do poetry and sing, and they're just different. You can just tell that they are not sort of this world just by the way that they are, the things that they do. Also, it's said in the way that they speak, the way that they move. They can enchant you with their voice, and that's believed that's because these people on Earth are actually of the Fae race, but have been given that blessing of being in human form for a certain amount of time until death, when they return back to being a fairy. So that's another theory as well that's in the folklore, is that fairies are here on Earth. They would be not the general sense of a fairy as in their goblins or dwarfs. Generally, it's the elves that get that privilege. But when they do pass over and die in human form, they go back to the elven selves. And again, they're with the fairies then for a very long time before they will get the chance to come back up on Earth and be a human again. But that's just another folklore that's said. Who knows if it's true? I'd like to think it is so. Thank you for listening, and many blessings.
Wysteria, energy, twister.